Okay, thanks everyone for joining our Electrical Safety Community Monthly Call, our third one now. So again, just for the people that weren't aware, obviously we had a conference in October, uh, lots of really good collaboration, sharing of ideas and experiences and drive. Then the conference ended, so it was decided that we would try and keep this going by creating a forum where we can come together again once a month and keep those good things going. So the purpose was to keep all those good things and put those into some clear key themes where we see gaps in the electrical safety and industry, and try and agree some tangible actions. Again, it's so big and so wide that we've had to try and keep that quite top level with things that we can try and work on together, collaborate, share standards, and share examples, and try and learn from each other's experiences and stand on each other's shoulders, I guess, from and learn from each other. So housekeeping wise, everyone that's registered will get a recording sent to them. Please use the post-call survey to flag up anything that you'd like included next time, or anything you found particularly beneficial, or future content that you might think would actually help people. Because if one person's thinking it, sure other people are as well. Make use of the chat. Please do get involved. If anyone does want to talk throughout, what we'll be doing is we'll be going through each work stream. Raise your hand, and then Ben can unmute you as well, so we can start getting some discussion going, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn from each other's experiences. And after the session, we will circulate slides in minutes, and obviously if there's any outstanding questions, we'll try and loop back. So we'll not go through everything, but we've established a steering committee. It's getting bigger because we're trying to bring in those resources that we can try and drive those work streams to keep them on target, and try and get that deeper content for everyone else in the community to benefit from. So how we want the session to run, will be a 1 hour call. The steering committee will present each of the work streams. We'll have a recap each week. Every time we're just going to ask for volunteers. So people that are on the call, if you've got some experiences, so good, bad, things that you're taking away from these and trying to implement that either worked or they haven't worked, or think good recommendations, please let us know either in the Q&A, or if you want to drop an email through, and we can get you involved in future, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn from people in industry, because people will do things differently, some better than others, some lessons learned don't always circulate. So that's what this forum's for. After each session, we'll ask for the community to get engaged, and hopefully try and get a bit of discussion on the go. Every month we'll review this. We'll do it once a month. The intention is that we're going to get together in person at some point this year before the next conference, somewhere in the middle, so summertime. We'll be looking to have the steering group owning the work streams, and then people in the community, so everyone else on the call, essentially take what you need, or implement what you can from those discussions, and let us know if there's any support you need, or any how you're getting on. Is it successful? Is there key things that you're learning from, or is there something you want to feed back? Again, that's what it's for. It's about these open discussions, and the aim would be 1 year on from our conference, we can keep it going, but the idea would be what's actually changed from when we first had that initial conference in October. Have we actually tried to move that needle? I'm not going to expect it to move too much in 12 months, but I'd like to think a lot of this collaboration can help a lot of people in our electrical safety community. So I'll now hand you over to Wayne, who's going to take us through a lessons learned, a safety moment. And again, just before we hand over to Wayne, we talked about this on the last call. We'll have safety moments, high potentials, near misses, incidents that happen within our organizations. Sometimes it's at a site and it then doesn't even get past that individual site to the rest of the business. So what we'd like to try and encourage is, if we do have something like that, and there are lessons learned that are common to others, or you think people might benefit from, even if it's done in a confidential way, as in presented by another, it would just be really good if you have got any of those and you're willing to share them. We'd like to start the call with a safety moment that we can try and learn from each other from, and try and prevent it happening somewhere else. I'll pass you over to Wayne now. Thank you.
Hey, Dan, thanks. And great to see everyone on the call today. It's awesome. This is our second call, and we've already got 50 plus participants on the call. Outstanding. Please continue to message us out to others who may not know that this call is happening. A lot of great stuff that Scanware is bringing, spearheading this initiative. So good stuff. And as mentioned, we're looking to bring in industry incidents and discuss them to a degree, right? This came from one of our partners on this call, so we want to thank them for bringing this. We're not going to bring any names or personal information to this, but this happened on a project site where a worker, the energy management plan was in place. Folks were trained to the plan. They understood the plan. Sometimes we see a lot of issues come up for contributing factors, but getting into this particular one, an MC cable was cut, and the worker believed that it was de-energized, so an assumption was made, and we knew what happens when we assume. There was no lockout placed on that because, the worker thought it was de-energized. The worker didn't do a proper live dead live, merely took a tick tracer and didn't see anything. As we know, tick tracers or widowmakers or whatever you want to call them, proximity testers, many times they don't work, especially with MC cables, but they didn't see anything. So they continued on. It was energized with 240. And as they cut through the picture on your right, you can see where it arced and burned the pliers. And in the picture on your left is the cable that they were cutting through. Some of the contributing factors that they saw on this was, obviously the lockout program didn't happen as it was supposed to be. They didn't perform the proper live dead live using a digitally rated and calibrated multimeter. They used that proximity tester or tick tracer. Supervision wasn't engaged to verify that the plan was happening according to plan, to verify that the workers were in the right place and lockout was there, or verify voltage verifications. And then there was a deviation, right? The plan was to work a certain way and de-energize and put lockout tag out. They deviated from the plan. And then again, assumptions happened and we see the event took place. So some of the corrective measures that team did was they brought all their teams together to come into alignment on that. They made blasts within the site that, tick tracers are not to be used where voltage verification should be. It should be done by the proper rated and calibrated meters with PPE, and, verifying that voltage is in place and not in place. But we wanted to, as a team, talk about these kind of events. And curious to know, has anyone seen these events on your project sites? What are you doing for corrective measures? And talk through this if we have any time. I'd love to see and hear from folks on this call on events like this.
No, that's really good. Yeah, if anyone wants to input on that, so if anyone has got any similar experiences, if it, is this an isolated incident or is this something that happens on other sites? Is this a regular thing? If you want to let us know in the chat, great. If you want to talk, just raise your hand and Ben can unmute your microphone and you can provide your input as well.
Good stuff. Well, we'll continue to bring events like this and talk through them. Please take this information back to your project sites and verify that your teams are doing the right things. And deviations, knowing that we don't deviate. A lot of times we see complacency creep in, especially with those who have tenured electricians. They become complacent and not follow plans. That we hear folks say, "Well, I was just trying to help out," right? But that's a deviation. We don't want to see those kind of things. And making sure that when you see somebody doing something, call it out. We, oftentimes in the industry, we have what we call stop work authority or stop work responsibility. Those are great tools to be utilized, but if we don't raise our hands and stop that work, things can happen. And that's obviously what we don't want to happen. We're scaling, this whole industry is scaling with unprecedented bills around the world, right? We have to make sure that processes and procedures are being followed. Folks understand that through training, and we're working to that. And then when we see deviations, we know stop. We don't do field deviations. We need to make sure that all trade partners are all shareholders are part of the moving forward after a deviation is discovered. And Dan, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
No, it's fine. There was a reference in there around interesting to see the multimeter use versus a voltage indicator and improving unit. It's again, I think it's down to what's in standards, isn't it? You know, it's for proven dead or again use of a potential indicator. It's a go no go you know arrangement. It's there to be foolproof, I guess, and provided with a proven unit so that you're not actually then going to another live source, you know, and subjecting yourself to, I suppose, another risk. So you're using a safe voltage proven unit, which comes with a device, and then doing that where you know sometimes, again with especially in commissioning and things there, the use of multimeters sometimes take their place because they're going off one job into another and they're not going backwards and forwards between different bits of test and measurement equipment. So I think it's a really good point. You know that often in the UK where you know you wouldn't use something that's there that has got different settings on it. You know, potentially you could press the hold function when it's on 0 volts, and then not actually get a live reading of what potential energy is there. So I think it's a really good point. What was used on this one, Wayne? What was used for the live dead live
Uh,
process or improper live dead live?
a tick tracer was used, which is a little wand. It's a proximity
Yeah,
wand, right? And improving meters, you know, going back to that, those are awesome, right? It's because now you have something right where the work is taking place to give you that live portion of live dead live. So, you know, but you're right. With a digital multimeter, it's important that that worker understands the proper operating functions of that unit to be able to make sure that they're clearly getting zero voltage verification and not having something that was on hold with a zero. Good stuff.
yeah. There's so many variations, isn't it? You could have it on, you know, on resistance, you know, on current,
Jeez.
AC, DC. There's, you know, it's in the UK we've got a standard, which is a guidance note JS38, which you know gives guidance around length of probes, fused leads, use of potential indicators, things like that, which is quite good. But again, obviously, it's a guidance note, but and it just depends what you utilize in your industry standards, I guess. But no, that's really good. I think it's you know if anyone's got any points for discussion, you know it's something that we can maybe look at next time as well. Probably leads us nicely into workstream one. So Wayne, you might as well keep that going.
Yeah, sure. Go to the next slide, please. So again, workstream one, we're talking about commissioning and handover from commissioning, you know, and the high risk that's involved with that. Energizations, you know, we have temp powers, you know, and that obviously after we complete IST, we're handing over to the operations folks and do they have equipment that is, you know, that has properly gone through a thorough IST, right? You know, there is a document that is being produced by some of our team, this commissioning handover safety checklist. It is still under work, you know, being February here. And our partner is not on the call today. He had a personal issue to attend to, but just wanted me to let everyone know that this is coming soon. We will see this and we'll attach it to our meeting notes so that you know we'll have that for to hand out. It won't be anything specific to any organization, so we're trying to make sure that when we hand over things like this, it's usable information regardless whom you're with and where you're working in the world. And that's all we
Perfect.
have for update on workstream one, Dan.
Yeah, no, that's ideal. Obviously last time we went through, so we're trying to vary what we go through to, I suppose, satisfy the different requests that we've got coming through. So, yeah, great. Obviously that's still happening in the background. Appreciate that, Wayne. So workstream two was around a unified energy control plan. So lockout, tagout. And for this one, So from workstream 2, it was that discrepancy between construction lockout tagout, the commissioning side, and then when it's thrown over the fence to the operational side. So this is kind of another top level, but it was to look at the gaps between what the existing programs look like in comparison to the one that it's going across to, which on the last call, Wayne showed us the process that he'd done around checking side-by-side programs by use of AI, which was quite helpful just for that top level overview. And then another point was around the use of digital lockout tagout systems and how they can benefit us. There's a little bit of discussion last time because we've got so much content. We've got MC Dean going to talk through some of the benefits of the use of a digital lockout tagout system. And then down the line, just conscious we've got quite a lot to get through. Down the line, we're then going to get some additional vendors in as well to talk through some unique benefits and applications that they can do. So I'll now hand you over to the guys from MCD, I guess, to talk through the top level benefits of a digital lockout tagout system.
Thanks, Dan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think we'll have to set up sharing screen if that's something that you can do, Ben.
Yeah. It says multiple people can share. It should all be sorted.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
I'm gonna
Thank
try
you.
right now.
So while he's pulling that up, to Ben's point, the benefits of using a digital solution system application to control energy is what we're here to discuss. As an organization who's been doing it for quite some time, almost 15 years, we're sharing how we've done it and the benefits from our standpoint, and we can even pause and really talk through some of the challenges that may come up trying to move to a digital solution. But if you go to slide 2 there, Colin, I mean, our story is really started in these high energy environments where the problem was just scaling the process. Like we needed the ability to be able to see real time and provide information to all the stakeholders, like the mechanics, like the general contractor, like the CX agent, like the client, exactly where energy was and where the potential for mistakes and the potential for lack of control was. And from someone who's walked around a really complex high energy environment with lock boxes and logs and bags of hasps and things of that nature, the documentation side and the visibility can be very, 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 very tedious and laborious. So we needed something to be able to provide real-time information, know where things are, coordinate, and give our qualified workers, our engineers, our commissioning professionals, our electricians, we needed to give them a tool to be able to manage their work. And for us, the way that we designed our process, you can go to the next slide, Colin, was really to be able to take what that process is, because when we go to the very first benefit there on slide 3, it's process, process, process. That's benefit number 1. When you have a process that you train somebody to, a workflow for how you start and execute energy control, trusting that it's being done is important, but having a way to verify that, trust but verify, is where the benefit of having a digital solution is, because you can see it real time, you can follow it, you can even intervene along the way, where if you don't have that, then you're trusting the people to do the work that they're doing, which is great. You want to trust them, but everybody's human. Projects are fast, they're demanding, they're complex. Nomenclature is the same from one job to the next job to the next job. You have redundancy on top of redundancy that creates scenarios for people that having all this information at hand in one place. For us, it's on an iPad or a smart device, and in general with the variety of other systems, having it right there in front of you is the same as having a one line on a wall where you highlight it, you draw it out, you have your logs, and that's great. I've seen some very good processes of electricians and engineers that do that, but when you put that in a way that everybody can see that, that's really the number one advantage and value. And I put this second bullet point here is confidence, because when you create these standard procedures of request for outage, request for work being done, give me the information that I absolutely need. When you have a digital system, you can make sure that you get all that information, when you create the procedure for it to flow. Then it goes to the next workflow of approval, which is your energy marshal or your outage coordinator, or the person that actually needs to look at that and make sure that it's the right steps. They've identified the right points. They've isolated the right equipment. They've considered everything else that's in play, whether it's early access power, whether it's control power, whether it's some level of redundancy that's easy to miss. Then after approval, then you get in really to this execution phase of, again, having a digital system, create a standard for somebody to follow, putting that in the hands of a qualified person, it makes them almost bulletproof in performing that work. Because then you get to the point where you want to verify critical controls. Is live dead live being conducted? Are we setting up our boundaries appropriately? Do we have locks in the right place? And so with a digital system, you can have photographic evidence, you can have checks and balances that allow people confidence that it's being executed the right way. And if I don't have that, if I'm taking 1,000-foot view of 27 projects with 5,000 workers and thousands upon thousands of these evolutions of lockout, tag out. If I don't have a system like this, you have no trust other than, that something didn't happen. But when you have a system like this, you can see permits that have been executed. You can see success real time. You can also understand what success looks like in relation to what your plan might be and look at ways to improve the process at a much better level, having this 1,000-foot view. Other advantages: live, it's instant, feeds information, user access as well. Like you can manage your users, so you can limit the people who essentially access and request things to the people that you want, as well as you don't lose information. You don't have to worry about. And again, I've seen great processes with drawings and logs and paper, but when you have a system that's digital and it's an application, you don't lose the information. You have it forever, and you can really, have that traceability, and it's auditable. So at any point in time, someone can audit. So I'm going to pause because these work streams really should be two-way and have some question and answer. So before I really dive into what maybe the disadvantages will be, I'll let the group maybe challenge some of these advantages or ask any questions about just the concept of having a digital energy control solution, having your plans and drawings, in a system that you can manipulate live, real time, the same as what it looks like in the field, and track all your permits. Like, I'll pause for any questions or comments or thoughts or feedback.
Hey, Aaron, quick question. Curious about when you're doing your digital one lines, are you also able to incorporate your temp power, your construction power as your digital one lines? And then oftentimes we see that get moved frequently so we can commission, components early. Just curious, are you guys doing that as well?
Yeah, the answer to that is, I'll answer it two ways. One, the first way I'll answer it is just in general, which is it's all dependent on if it's designed or not. If it's designed and you have a design for your early access power, your provisional power, construction power, then you absolutely can. For us, that's a standard that we try to uphold at all times, to include if there are changes or moves, then our engineers will add that into the system. So if we're setting up a power on wheel module, with a UPS on it for an IDF row, to bring up true early access power, in an environment, then we would add that if it's added, per the client. So, but again, to answer your question in general, it's all about design. So if it's designed, then absolutely, which it should be.
Good points. Thanks.
I'm just going to unmute someone from the audience, if that's all right, Aaron, for a question.
Sure. You can unmute them all if you want.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. This is very thought-provoking, Mikhail here with the Fleet Data Centers. As I listened to, how you covered the first couple of slides here, I'm just intrigued to know a little bit more as to how you leverage technology for your frontline workers. And so you've got this as a scheduling software and a live oversight tool, but are you also looking at exploring to make this tool available in the workplace for the frontline workers? And what kind of opportunities do you see there, if there aren't any already?
And great question. I think, what was your name? I'm sorry. Is it Michelle? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, great question. I mean, it's all about the frontline worker first and foremost. So yes, I guess I did describe it as a scheduling tool, but this tool goes from a scheduling tool to a planning tool, then to an execution tool where the person actually doing the work has a smart device in their hand with that information. So that request for outage, that permit, as we call it, or outage plan, it now becomes digital, and it's digital the whole time, and it's in their hand. So it's in their device where they can see those steps. And then as they're doing the work, they're using that permit to track what they're doing in those steps and updating it as they go along in the field. And you'll see a little bit throughout these slides how that's done to give you an idea. But it absolutely has to get down to the frontline worker, and they have to be the ones that are informing the information and executing in the system. So it's built for turnkey, if you want to call it that, where it's planned, it's scheduled, it's tracked, and then it's also a part of how they execute their work. So instead of that paper permit, which we print them often as well, in addition to they have a iPad or a smart device that's the same thing as the paper. Like, it could be the paper itself. You can check it just like the paper. You can sign it just like the paper. And oh, by the way, you can take photos. And what's nice about that is as they're doing those things, it's automatically documenting, and it's automatically giving real-time information to people on the back end who are monitoring this very closely. Because when you go from environments that are standard work weeks to tons and tons of overtime, and you go from maybe a few outages on a job to a few outages a day, every day, that's where this advantage comes in, having that real-time information. So
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And if I didn't answer your question, just let me know.
I've got some more questions, Aaron, for you, if that's all right, from the chat.
Yep.
So this one's from Terry. Was the transition period to get ops/safety to adopt and trust the new process versus the established process, i.e. digital from paper? What was the key success to getting this adopted?
Yes, I would start with that. If there's a disadvantage, that learning curve is, I'll call it a disadvantage, and it's only a disadvantage overcoming that hurdle. So just like any kind of change, they've got to know the why. Like, why are we doing this? What's it going to benefit them? So when you make them a part of the solution, which is what we do and have done when we use digital solutions, we make them a part of it to say, this is how it's going to make your life easier, your job more efficient, safer, and give you more reliability on the back end, when they know that, which will be the next couple slides I get to, that the digital solution is all it's doing for us. Like, our problem statement is to consistently manage energy safely. Like, that's all the solution does, is take our electrical safety plan, take the process for outages and controlling hazardous energy, and putting it in the hands of the user, giving them that reminder, giving them that workflow, and giving them those steps. That's how we overcame it. And there was some people that had some really great ways of drawings on their desk, on the wall, highlighting, and there's still a lot of that happens. But once they start using the tool and they see how efficient it can be, and they can see how they can share information very quickly across the board, I mean, it really sold itself, just because it allowed people to essentially do their work a lot more efficiently. They don't have to scan things. They don't have to send extra emails and phone calls. It's like when information is bouncing back and forth seamlessly, people just really get hooked.
Perfect, thank you. Another one from Kevin. Does this tie into creating Lotto placards slash procedures, or is this just for construction?
So when you look at it for construction and operations, in construction, it's very dynamic. You're starting up equipment for the first time. You're interacting with equipment for pre-functional tests and commissioning tasks and load banking. And so when you transition into operation, your execution is a little different. You still have that in operations if there's break fixes or you're going back and doing work on equipment after it's been in service. But really, some of the advantages, the top advantages for operational environments are every single piece of equipment or piece of machinery has to have a system specific lockout tagout procedure. That's just basic compliance. So when you have a digital system, you can use that digital system to manage all that. So you can create all of those and confidently know that from a panel board to a switch gear to your UPS system to even maybe some of your equipment in the facility that that you operate, like balers and things like that require lockout tagout procedures. You can build those all in and have those standard, and then it helps you manage them all. And then when you go to a piece of equipment, I've got my iPad, I go to that piece of equipment and it's already built for me in the system, which there's a lot of work that's being done to do that during construction and hand that off to operations that you're seeing a lot of successes across the industry. And I know we are, as we do that more. So.
Perfect, thank you. I think we can keep going now. Thanks for that, Aaron. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, I'll go through a couple more slides quickly and then turn over to Colin just to give you some, back end on like how we plan to use digital solutions. But I start off anytime with this kind of conversation on the next slide here on 4, Colin, with like we have a standard at MCD for managing electrical safety, and the industry as a whole has, there's various OSHA standards, there's ANSI standards, Z244, 1910.147, and a variety of construction standards that aren't as detailed as general industry. If you go to slide 4, Colin, and I show this because this is where we start. Like before we do anything digital or on paper, like we have to have a plan and we have to have processes and standards because that's what we then take off the paper, into an application to be executed in the field. So those steps along the way, that workflow for turning something off and working on it safely, and the checks and balances and the inspections and the approvals and all of those controls, they start here first, and then you put it into your application to execute it. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. Maybe there's some lag. Can you hear me?
I think there's some lag on.
Yeah, 10-4. So the next 2 slides, as there's lag, this is our QEW process. A lot of organizations have qualified electrical worker processes, but I put this here because when we're using an application, it's important that the people that use it can understand how to draw a circuit. They can understand their system that they're working on. And then the tool, the application, makes it very efficient for them to implement the controls that they need to be safe. So, we put this here to ensure, like when you're building applications and processes, you're thinking about the people who are doing the work and should be doing the work, to help them do their work better and more importantly, consistent and i.e. safer.
So you're still going through the competency evaluation process of persons. So you're still doing the competency evaluation for each level of authorization that they would be allowed to do, and then obviously then allowing them certain access rights within the system. Is that right?
100%. And the earlier question about how do you win people over, when we're doing this training and we're doing our competency evaluations, they're using that tool, that application as part of the training. So as they're learning how to set up their arc flash boundaries, how to verify live, dead live, how to don their PPE, how to discern from energized parts to things that are not energized, like they're using that application as part of that. So, they're getting one single source of truth of how to execute work. So earlier, when you talk about how do you win people over and change, like there's a strategy that's been successful for us is you put it in the training. And so the last slide there is just a little bit more details on the QEW process for us, just sharing with the group. We've the last couple of years, we put a lot of emphasis on this and really identifying levels of people in certain environments, mainly in data center environments right now, where it's like 600 volts and less, UPS systems, and building a competency framework all the way up to, producing energy marshals that are really hard to find these days. So, but I'll turn it over to Colin here on slide 7. He can give you a little bit more of like the workflow and how it's built. And Dan, you're going to have to keep us on time.
Yeah, I was just thinking of obviously we're seeing the benefits kind of as we're going through. I don't know what people would on the call would prefer more, whether to go through the benefits or talk through, like, I guess how it typically works, the workflow, and then maybe that might identify if there's any challenges there as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll give you one more slide and then we can kind of open it up. Like go to slide 9. And if you go to slide 9, that's the workflow that we've created. And, that's a workflow in like the systems that we use, but it's important that you have a workflow, and workflows can be modified, but this is our workflow for doing those field activities under a permit to work process for energy control. So it's started and initiated. We do this through QR codes as much as possible. So that way, whether it's a vendor coming to the job day one, or it's, a foreman who's been there for quite some time, regardless, it gives them ease of initiating the permit. So it's easy. Again, back to one of those questions about change. If it's not easy, they're not going to do it. So having something like a QR code where they can quickly scan and initiate work, and then as soon as they hit submit, now it's in that bucket of needing to be completed, which is a review process by the energy marshal. And for some of these larger projects, our whole commissioning team and lockout tagout team will pick that up. And for them, that's their tool to do their work, right? So they're doing what their other activities are, but then when they get these requests for outages or requests for activities, now they pick it up in the system. They're reviewing the information from the person who submitted it, and then they're completing that permit with approvals, as well as validating what the user who drew it out, picked his breakers or isolating devices to be de-energized and made safe for his work. Now the team that is responsible for the overall safety of that plan shown earlier in the project from an energy standpoint, they're vetting what those users are doing. And also what's nice about a digital system, I'll just say again as an advantage, is if you get 20 of these in one day or 5 different vendors, you may not be able to do all that work at the same time because it's going to conflict each other, actually create an issue. And if you don't have a digital application or something that's bringing it all together, you can't see what those impacts are to the system. So if you don't actually have drawing of current state, replicated to what's in the field, it's really hard to try to say, well, if I turn this off, for mechanical testing, what's it actually going to do for the load bank testing or commissioning? So again, another advantage. And then it goes to the approval stage, which is a very important stage. Once it's approved, now it's in that bucket to go be executed. Then there's a team of people that pick it up. They got their iPads. In some cases, we'll even print them just to have a paper copy in the field too, just for people that really like both. And they go out and they follow that script now. So they've got a script to go do that work, and then there's steps along the way of when they execute it, where they take pictures of the locks, they verify absence of voltage, they set up their electrically safe work condition boundaries. As they're opening up equipment, they're donning PPE, and what these applications do is they allow you the ability to see that and trust that it happened, because people get pushed. It's fast environments. People may forget their arc flash suit. There's lots of people you can have come in and tell you stories about where they took a shortcut and didn't go get their suit. So having a system like this can give you trust that people are actually taking the time to make sure they have everything in place. Then once it's locked out, it's now visible on a one line, on a drawing, that everybody can see that this is off and why and who touched it and where it is. And then it stays there for the duration of the work. We break it up in two scenarios where it's a group lotto for pre-energization. So those typically stay in place until the work's done. And then anything after that, electrically connected, ready to energize or energized state. Now it's individual permits that are coming through. And I will say another advantage is we've gotten data on projects that we've learned a lot about our sort of construction opportunities to improve because we're getting back in equipment more than we should be. So without a system like this or any system that tracks at, from a digital standpoint, you can't mine the data now and say, well, wait a minute, why on this job that's 50 megawatts and this job on 50 megawatts, one had, 847 permits and this one had 1600s. Why was that? And then you can actually mine in the data. So, but nonetheless, this is our workflow that we build in when we use an application, which for us is everywhere. And then you can also
just conscious of time there. So I'm thinking if it maybe just I'll have a couple of questions, then we might
I'll cut it off.
just
I'll cut it
press.
off there for you.
Yeah, and because obviously I've got the loudest microphone. Do you mind if I ask mine first? Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the questions that I had was just around. I suppose the first one, obviously, from I'm still on the fence, so I love a good bit of paper. That's my go-to. Probably because I haven't seen a convincing digital system myself, or haven't worked using a system that I thought was appropriate, really. But I suppose substation switch rooms, things like that, they're always tucked away, aren't they? They're not, they're not. You haven't always got great connections. They're often in basements, on mezzanines. They're tucked away. They might be in the middle of nowhere in a field. So from a connectivity perspective, does that create an impact if you haven't got any internet connection?
Sure, it does. But there's most of these systems, if not all of them now, have workarounds to that, meaning you can initiate your plan, which in most cases you do not at the point that you're walking into the substation, but you've initiated the day prior at some point in time prior, where you can do that online, have your information ready, and then work offline, meaning you can still have your device ready with that information available, just like a piece of paper that you would have written out the day prior, and then you can go do that work. Now, the disadvantage there is that just like paper, you can't see that live because you don't have the connection. But as soon as you get back to a connection point, all the work that you executed, you can sync or upload pretty quickly. And just about all these systems these days, that's like seamless within seconds. Then that information can now get back. So,
and I suppose secondly, and again, this is a general question. There's no insult meant by this at all. Is there potential that it could water down, I suppose, the knowledge and experience needed to develop a suitable isolation program? Where you get the drones out, you're following, looking for backfeeds, things where you might have things like VTs, where you've got to isolate like the secondaries of the VTs and things that you might not identify them unless you're actually getting into the drones to have a look at that. Is the potential that you could water down competency, I guess?
That's a good point. And everyone should consider that when they're using an application, that in the wrong design, that can happen, right? Meaning if someone or the company using it, it's the company using it has to understand like what their process is. That's one of the reasons I led this with process. So the steps of reviewing the drawings, reviewing the cut sheets, reviewing the information on the equipment that allows you to do what you just said, Dan, with identifying your CTs, your PTs, where the locations of breakers are, your control power, your various other sources that are possible. The application can do the same thing, and that's where the company has to have a standard to make sure that the application informs that. The application is a tool for people to do that. That's our intent. That's how we design it. That's how I've seen it designed by others, is you give somebody a tool to do that exact same thing, but now I have drawings that are all in one place. Now I can flip through and look at things quickly. Now I can have information at my fingertips and process through sometimes the nuance of, the paper and make it more efficient for the person. So it's a fair point, and it's certainly a risk. But again, it's up to the organization and how they execute their process and manage their process to make sure that doesn't happen.
No, Bradley's just, I suppose, reinforced that as he's come back to say workforce is already watered down due to the fast expansion, and this type of product is needed to, I suppose, maintain that level of safety, because that dilution's already taken place in the numbers, in the skill gaps that we have in industry. So it's, yeah, I know it's a fair,
Well,
fair point.
And that's an interesting point, because you have to scale competency, right? So in an environment where like there's such a desire for skilled and competent workforce, how do you spread that across a project? Not replace it, but how do you spread it to help others learn quicker and become more competent themselves? And technology is definitely a way to do that, where you can get information quicker. You can have approvals quicker. You can have people that might not be as tenured or experienced with a certain system as others, be able to have more reach to other people. So I'll answer you that sort of scenario with, technology is helping to try to close that gap. And I mean, it's a big gap. I
Yeah.
mean, we all know it. So
No, that's perfect. Ben, do you think we need to cut that there probably and move on? I'm conscious we've got another 2 work streams, but if obviously if this is something that we want to look at further, I think we've had it's been quite a lot an engaging topic, I think, so far. So if it's something that the work streams aren't changing, the work streams are ever there. These are what we're working on. We're trying to collaborate and share that information out. So if it's something that everyone else wants to explore, either on later sessions and a bit more in depth, or look at specific parts of these types of system, then yeah, I think that's something that we can look to do. I think we'll probably cover work stream 3 now. We've got Cody on, who's going to talk through some key changes. So like, thanks very much. Apologies if anyone's got any extra questions. It might just be good to drop. We've still got the Q&A. We don't lose that. So if anybody wants to put in any Q&A of things that they want to look at for future sessions, or yeah, anything that we can look at in that, or you want to look at deeper, then let us know, and we'll have another session on this, because like we say, it's not going anywhere. We're still going to stick with the same work stream. So yeah, do let us know. So we'll go into work stream 3, and I'll hand you over to Cody.
Hey there. Good morning, everybody. Cody Fleming, Line Data Centers, the operations electrical SME, for those who haven't met me. I'm gonna kind of condense it down in the interest of time, just kind of go over what this section is about. So arc flash and electrical hazard management. So what does that mean? Everything is supposed to have an arc flash label. You're all are likely familiar with them. Has category or incident energy, has all your boundaries, has required PPE, everything. So what is the risks associated with that? Kind of something that I've been working on is the temporary arc flash label path. Everyone in construction is familiar with temporary arc flash labels, and it's actually something that I kind of want to integrate more with Workstream 1. Wayne Hawkins is going to reach out to him about that. Among other changes, the NFPA 2026 is shifting more, in my opinion, towards a action-based risk. There is still math, but it's more focused on what is going to be worked on, as opposed to what does the math for. So there's kind of changes what requires labeling, what the labeling is supposed to have on it. This is in the parallel with a whole bunch of other changes, kind of to how NFPA I think is approaching risk-based maintenance and everything, condition-based and everything like that. So what am I working towards as far as arc flash labels? Finalize a clear arc flash study ownership matrix. I'm a big fan of utilizing processes that already exist. So for instance, in my organization, we have our commissioning checklists, and I'm making updates to that, which I will share with Wayne. That way we can share that out to everybody, and get it out, give you a little structure on how to navigate it's not uncommon, excuse me, that temporary arc flash labels will be maintained throughout IST. Sometimes substations just aren't available. So having a clearly defined SCCS turnover process is very important. And then mandating that all high-risk equipment is pre-labeled with temporary arc flash labels during construction for worker protection for final commissioning. So that is something that we can attack a couple different ways. If anyone here in the construction format is familiar with CSI master format, section 26 covers your electrical design specifications. So they act as the construction master specs. Specifically, section 2605 that one goes over protected devices, and it also includes your and through other difficulties to get done. Now, on the construction side, there also needs to be inclusion into whatever level 3 checklists you have, making sure that that is in there on delivery, in there on set in place. So I'm putting together a kind of workflow just for temporary and into permanent arc flash labels from conception all the way through, and that's something that I'll be hoping to share with you all. Again, kind of condense that all down in the interest of time. So I know that was a fast shot. So if anyone has any questions, I'll open it up for you now.
If we've got anyone with any comments on that, I appreciate you sharing that sort of early stages of where you are, Cody. If you can, obviously that's something that you can, I suppose, show us how you develop with that along the way. Anything you learn from it, no doubt it's not going to be perfect first time round. So,
no, there'll be lessons learned.
Yeah, no, that's ideal. Is any questions that have come through? I mean, your connection wasn't great there, Cody. So a couple of times we had to just assume you'd, become some kind of a robot.
I apologize.
We got the majority of it. It was just a couple of times we thought your true self was coming through the T2000. Cool Terminator reference.
Through at the
Yeah,
moment.
you caught me.
No, that's fine. So yeah, if we've got no questions, then I think we'll cover the bit that the guys have been working on workstream 4, and then if it's all right, Matt, if we can maybe just move the arc flash playbook points, probably give that the time it deserves on the next session, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Right. We are. I can't even see the slide deck anymore. Is that just me? Is that still up?
Yeah, it's up still.
Yeah, it's still on the arc flash slide.
Okay. Interesting.
Maybe while we're waiting, Chad, are you okay to start talking about it? And
Yeah.
I don't know if we need
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
We'll do it live.
Do it live. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so just to introduce Workstream 4, it's all about competency management, contractor management. So really the why behind all of that is we've already alluded to throughout the session here about having trained and competent, qualified workers working at these locations all across the world, right? We know data center expansion is very rapid. So the work stream 4 targets competency in terms of standardizing that approach, ensuring all workers that are going to work on or near electrical equipment or systems have the standard baseline of training before they enter these sites to perform work. So I mean, through a lot of incidents and industry trends and things we can pull from, we'll start to see that there can and are inconsistencies with training currently, right, within our industry. Here's the slide. So really, this work stream targets that and trying to establish those baseline requirements. And we have a series of actions here we've updated recently, and I'll pull in Janine and Jose to touch on those.
Yeah, so based on our discussion is really how do we provide something to everyone in the industry that's tangible. And through that, kind of building off of what the Data Center Safety Council had identified for operations topics, and coming up with learning outcomes based on the different groups for electrical training. So that's what we're going to be targeting to do, is to come up with these learning objectives. The simultaneous piece is this benchmarking, and I know gaining incident data. So we will be developing a survey to send out, hopefully, or everyone on this call and anyone in the industry that anyone knows to be sending out, collecting that data to then be tying back to these gaps in training and the learning outcomes that we will be developing as well. So 2 pieces of this that we're kind of giving some direction to. And then lastly, action 3, once we have these learning outcomes developed and, the incident data to go off of, developing a process where perhaps, Scanware, DCSE, potentially having a review process. So here's the learning outcomes, send to the training industry. And if somebody wants to be, more of an oversight review of, are we training to the learning outcomes that was developed by the experts in the industry? That will be a 3rd piece that we'll be looking to develop out. Jose, anything to add on that too?
Nope. I would just get into all the weeds about each one of them. So no, that's good. Good high level.
Yeah. Brings us to 1 minute. Oh, Dan, you're on mute too.
Any questions on that? Then obviously there's more to come. It's a bit of a work in progress, but I think it's something that everyone has a vested interest in, because it impacts everybody, doesn't it? This whole the competency piece. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, great. Please let the guys know. We on this session we did intend for to go through the ArcFlash playbook, or sections of that that we think are relevant, and we're in the process of trying to get a version that we can possibly share as well, because there was a lot of questions raised on the last one. So I think that's obviously we're run out of time today, but I think the digital lockout tagout tool benefits was a key thing that was questioned on the last couple that we've had. So it was definitely worth having that time. It's just trying to make sure we I suppose satisfy all the queries that are coming in and keep those work streams going. So if there's any questions on that, brilliant. Like if Chad just said there, if anyone's interested and wants to support the work streams, let us know. But if there's no questions, we'll kind of, I suppose, thank you for joining and wrap up there and prepare for the next one. Has anyone in the committee got anything to add to that? Just thanks to everybody. Brilliant.
No, all good. Thank you, everyone. There is a follow-up survey coming out after this session is closed down, so please let us know how we've done. And yeah, we'll see you next month.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone, for closing it down now.